Hi everyone, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you all are doing very well today. I am here to share decks that I am ready to let go of in my Tarot and Oracle collection. I am going to be posting these up for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and I have had most of these titles for a very, very long time, and they just have not resonated with me personally, and so I'm ready to move them along to readers who would appreciate them much more. So I am going to just give a very brief overview of why the deck is leaving my collection. This is not meant to be a statement against any particular artist or creator. Also, I hope that you don't take offense if any of these titles are ones that you personally love and value. I think that's the great thing about the tarot community and kind of the state of the market right now is that there are so many titles to choose from. And even though this did not resonate with me personally, I hope that if you have these decks and you love them, that they continue to be an important part of your own spiritual practice. I'm also not going to be taking these decks out of the boxes because I have tried to film this a few times before and I hate the sound of opening up the boxes. It just bothers me deeply. So I'm not going to be doing that, although there are a few that are in bags and we can kind of flip through those while we have this discussion together. So without further ado, first up, I am going to be letting go of the Materia, Prima, and the Supra Oracle. These are both by Usi, which is the same publishing house that did the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. They are an independent card publisher company. These are really beautiful, and I love them in theory. Materia Prima is inspired by the periodic table of elements, and the Supra Oracle is inspired by alchemy, and specifically the works of Carl Jung around exploring that from a psychological level. These are really beautiful. I just never ever use them. Part of the reason for that is because I find that they are not very intuitive readers for me. They are very guidebook heavy decks. And while I do enjoy a good guidebook, I found that for oracles, I much prefer to use them as clarifiers of getting a very quick and simple message. And that's not so much the case with these. So I am going to be moving them along. The next deck is the Marigold Tarot. Now, I know a lot of folks really love this deck. I think that it is absolutely a beautiful artistic achievement. It is a great representation of Punjabi history and Punjabi culture. I don't enjoy the experience of reading with this deck personally. Even though this artwork is very beautiful and it kind of skews dark. I mean, the entire aesthetic is about skeletons and skulls, which I usually really love and enjoy. I found that I have not had any empowering readings. I find that this deck always wants to go to a very, very dark place mentally, and I think that is just a personal issue for me. I haven't really had it with any other tarot decks, but for whatever reason, this deck does not empower me. This deck does not help me to heal or move from shadow. In fact, it just heightens and intensifies some of the anxious thoughts and triggers that I have. So I am going to let this go, and I'm going to hope that it goes to somebody who will have a much more positive experience working with it. Next is the Star Power Tarot. I featured this in my 21 tarot questions. I think a lot of these actually were from that video. But Star Power Tarot is modern, it is unapologetically queer and bright and vibrant and psychedelic. I love the artwork, but it's just too busy for me to be able to read with. And for tarot, I really prefer being able to do a multiple card spread. The only way that this could conceivably work for me would be as a one card draw, and that's just not my style. And I know so many people for whom this artwork would really, really resonate and who might enjoy being able to try different types of readings with it. So I'm gonna pass that along. I'm also going to be letting go of the Wizard's Tarot. And this is hard for me because I do love the artwork. I've had this deck for a very long time, since 2017. It's just really, really wonderful and fun, but it does not function as a tarot. The suits have all been changed with the exception of the swords, and so it's very confusing for me personally because this deck does not come with any guidebook or really any instructions. And I also think that a lot of the artwork, a lot of the characters are very similar to one another. And so the symbolic interpretation of each card is not readily apparent. And it's kind of difficult for me to be able to wrap my head around it intuitively. That being said, I am going to purchase apparel and probably some art prints from this artist. It's done by Wizard of Barge, who is just an absolutely amazing creator, and I really enjoy his work, and so I want to support him in other ways. I've just made peace with the fact that this is not a readable tarot for me. Whoops, gonna try not to bump the tripod. Next up is a controversial pick, because I know that many people absolutely love this deck. It is the Tarot of Vampyres by Ian Daniels. The box went away long ago. I've also had this deck since 2017. And the truth is that there are other vampire decks that I have, like the Ludi Lescott and the Les Vampire Oracle by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. And there are also other Thoth clones that I just enjoy working with much, much more. I have almost never used this deck, and that's okay. I thought that the guidebook was very, very well done. It was very thoughtful. It really is just such a passion project for Ian, and that energy definitely comes across, but it's not one that I feel personally connected with. And it's been a long enough time that I feel like I am ready to let this go. I did even edge it in red Sharpie a few years ago to try to connect with it, and nothing happened. So ready for that to move on. I'm also going to be rehoming Tarot of the Dead, which is the other one that does not have a box here. And for much the same reason actually as the Wizard's Tarot, the renaming of the suits is not intuitive for me. I struggle a lot with that. I do think that the majors and the court cards are really beautiful. And this is kind of the original Dia de los Muertos deck. This was a Llewellyn publication from the mid-2000s. And so it's an interesting point, I think, in tarot history. It reads well, but again, I just struggle a lot, not with the pips, but with the renaming of the suits. So I am going to go ahead and pass that one along. I'm also passing along the Muse Tarot. I've been meaning to declutter this for 2 years, and I don't know why I haven't yet. I think I was just waiting until I accumulated a critical mass of decks to rehome, if that makes sense. But I have just never been able to connect with this deck. It's all about connecting with one's own creativity and creative potential, but I didn't find this deck to be helpful for me personally to do that. I also don't like the artwork. I think that it's very similar to the She-Wolf Tarot and the Serpent Fire Tarot, which I do like. And I don't like the guidebook. I really do not like the writing style, and I felt like a lot of the messages skewed overly positive and were very similar to one another. It didn't really feel like there was a lot of distinction from card to card. So I am going to be rehoming this, and I'm very happy that it's finally going to be gone. Next is the Labyrinth Tarot. This was a new purchase for me. I got this a month ago, and I wanted the deck for a long time because the artwork is very beautiful, but it is dark, it is muted, the scale of the cards are too small to really be able to make out the details effectively, and the Decan astrological associations in the minor arcana are completely wrong. They just reprinted the Pisces symbol over and over again in the swords and the wands suits, when really it should only be in the cups. And so I'm not able to overlook that. There are also decks that I have that I feel like have this kind of similar aesthetic that work better for me and are more intentional in regards to those astrological associations. So I feel comfortable rehoming this. I'm also going to be rehoming Mausolea Oracle of Souls, another recent purchase that I wanted to like so much because the artwork is beautiful and I thought the keywords were unique. However, this does not function for me. The draws make absolutely no sense most of the time. They just don't relate to anything else that's going on in the reading if I'm using it as a clarifier or even as a daily draw. It just does not connect with me, and so I feel good about rehoming this. Also, the cardstock is very thin and it's already starting to warp, which makes me sad because I love the classic old Lo Scarabeo cardstock, and I'm disappointed in the direction that they are going with their oracles. So that one is going. Wisdom of the Oracle by Colette Baron Reid is also going to be going. This deck is really well done from a guidebook standpoint. Colette Baron Reid chose cards that really cover a wide variety of experiences, and she included a lot of information about how to interpret those cards in relation to different facets of your life. So there's a paragraph you can read about applying the message to your career, to relationships, to your spiritual journey, and so on and so forth. That's valuable. I just do not enjoy the artwork of this at all. And I have the Dreamweaver's Oracle by her with artwork by Jewel Nakamura that I absolutely adore. And in fact, that deck and I have had quite a really interesting journey together over the last few months. So I feel comfortable letting Wisdom of the Oracle go and keeping Dreamweavers. Next is Tarot of the Divine, another deck that I really wanted to like because the artwork is so beautiful. The amount of research was just massive. Yoshi Yoshitani, the author and artist, really did a wonderful job of making sure that deities and fairy tales from around the world were not only represented and included, but were really honored. And that is absolutely beautiful. I have two issues. One, the cardstock is the absolute worst of any mass market deck I have ever worked with before. It isn't linen, but it has like this stamped on linen finish. It's awful. It's a bad tactile experience that kind of sours my feeling when I'm working with the deck. And then also this deck is associated with some personal memories for me that I would rather not choose to keep and hold on to. So that being said, I think if someone else were to overlook the issues with the cardstock quality, this would absolutely be a wonderful deck. And it does offer so much, again, from a cultural standpoint, from a diversity and representation standpoint. It's really well done in all other aspects, but I just don't enjoy using it personally. Then this is the last indie deck. This is the Cosmos Tarot and Oracle by the Light Gray Art Lab. Another deck I've had since 2016 or 2017, and I have tried to use this in so many different ways. It just does not function for me. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. Light Gray Art Lab is a collective of Canadian artists, and even though there are a bunch of different distinctive art styles, it feels very cohesive, and so that's not the issue. For me, I don't understand why certain constellations were affiliated with certain cards. I don't think that it is in alignment with the standard Rider-Waite-Smith or Thoth systems of the tarot, which is what I really prefer to use. It just goes off in its own direction, and it makes it very, very difficult to read intuitively. And as far as the guidebook goes, I feel like there was a stretch that was made to be able to relate these constellations and the mythology around them into a cohesive structure. So I've tried for so long to make this work, and I feel like it's finally time, because as much as I love the artwork, if I am not using this deck, then it doesn't make sense for me to hold on to it any longer. So I'm definitively going to be rehoming all of the decks that I just mentioned. These last three fall into the same category for me, and it's kind of difficult because I know that I'm never going to read with these decks personally for myself, and they are just astronomically large. They take up so much room and are contributing to the storage issue that I'm having. However, I want to keep them from a study perspective, but I also know that I do not have the time or the energy to dedicate to studying them in the way that I want to. So let's go ahead and get into it. These two I got at the same time. They are the Tarot of the Orishas and the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot. I was interested in studying African traditional religion and its revitalization, and I wanted to get these decks to be able to explore that, to aid in my research, and also to see the ways in which different deities, different ritual ceremonies were interpreted through the lens of tarot. In fact, that is a really big fascination for me, is I view tarot as a text, and I view the big three, right? Tarot de Marseille, Rider-Waite-Smith, and the Thoth Tarot as not only being text, but as being sacred text. These were made with the explicit purpose of being able to communicate certain ideas. I know Tarot de Marseille is playing card deck, but if you look at the majors and the figures that are included, it has a lot to say about the relationship with Catholicism, the relationship with organized Christian religion in Europe at the time, and incorporates ideas about virtues, incorporates ideas about Christian cosmology, that in a sense it creates like this educational body of work. And of course, Rider-Waite-Smith is an educational tool for teaching the Golden Dawn system of magic. The Thoth Tarot expands upon the Golden Dawn and begins to integrate Crowley's own ideas with the Lima and other avenues that he was exploring within his magical practice and teaching, right? And so it's fascinating to me to see what happens when you blend non-Christian or non-Western systems of magic and spirituality into that tarot structure. And my intention was to be able to, again, do a deep dive academic study into African traditional religion to see how those ideas interplay within the tarot system. However, I realized, number one, I'm very much out of my academic depth here. This is not my area of expertise, and it would require much more time and dedication to be able to really begin to approach these. I also feel like I also question my own ability to be able to fully comment on the efficacy of these decks, because I am not a practitioner of any African traditional religion, nor am I a practitioner of hoodoo and voodoo, which is what the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot, of course, is deeply rooted in. And there are some questions that I have about the authorship of these decks, one of which, Tarot of the Orishas, seems to be solely commissioned by Llewellyn to fill a hole in their deck lineup in the early 2000s. There's absolutely no information about the creator and illustrator of this deck available anywhere else online except for the Llewellyn website. And they appear to be Brazilian, but it's not clear about what their relationship is with the Orishas, like what their religious background is, whether or not they have the community authority to be able to relay some of the teachings in this deck. And then New Orleans Voodoo Tarot, the creators are initiated priests and they are voodoo practitioners who lead ceremony in New Orleans. However, the deck lays out a system for folks who are non-initiated to be able to interact with the deities and the spirits and the rituals. And I don't know where the ethical line there is. That really isn't for me to say, because from my understanding, like, voodoo is a closed initiatory practice. And while non-white people can certainly engage with it, there are definitive steps to take to be able to become integrated into the community and to learn some of those teachings. And so it's just complicated, right? Because again, I don't know if I have the baseline knowledge to comment any further on these decks. They've raised some issues for me, And I also know that I am not going to be using them personally, right? Like this is solely just for study. But don't have, again, the time, the energy, or really like the level of expertise that I would need to have in order to really approach them. So I feel bad about letting them go because I don't want to ever stop studying. I don't ever want to stop learning. I just question if it's right for me to hold on to these. So there we go. And the last deck that I have is the Sacred India Tarot. And this is kind of the same thing for me. This is a very, very beautifully done deck that is inspired by Hindu epics such as the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata. It's absolutely beautiful. It comes with a 350-page guidebook. This is one where, again, I got it as an intention to be a study deck, to reread the myths, because I have not studied much about Hinduism since I did my undergraduate program, and I took 2 classes on it and read those texts then. And in a similar way, like I wanted to be able to refresh myself on the mythology and to read the book, to read what the creators have to say, and tease out how the Hindu cosmology was mapped onto the Western structure of tarot. But again, like I'm realizing that I do not have the time and the space to do that work right now. It would be different if I went back and got my master's and got my PhD in religious studies, but that is not something that is feasible for me to do right now at this stage in my life. And I also don't, again, like it's taking up so much space, both physically and also mentally, because there's this anxiety that I feel around it, this guilt that I feel around it for not being where I think I should be in regards to my practice or in regards to my study. That just isn't serving me anymore. I don't want to feel guilty. I want to be able to look at all of my decks and to know that they're ones that I'm not only passionate about, but that they're ones that really work for me as spiritual tools, as opposed to being representative of these theoretical avenues that I could take with my career. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't know what I mean. But yeah, it definitely is something that I'm struggling with. And so I'm not sure if I am going to be rehoming. I think I probably am. The only difference is that this one is harder to get in the US. It ships from overseas and it takes a very long time and is very expensive. Whereas Tarot of the Orishas and New Orleans Voodoo Tarot, you can get those very readily. They're mass market. They are still in print. So I don't know. We'll see where I land with those. But I have made peace with the fact that these are not ones that I would actually read for myself with. These would be ones that would, if I were to keep them, they would be solely for a hypothetical future academic research. And again, that's just not where I am right now, as much as I want to be. So that's a look at all of the decks that I will be rehoming. Again, these are all my own personal opinions, my own personal reasoning. Do let me know if you have had a similar experience with any of these decks, or let me know if there are ones that you really resonate with, because again, I don't want to impede on anybody else's experience, if that makes sense. You know, I think it's beautiful that we have this amount of variety, and I want these decks to go out into the world and to find the readers and to find the folks who will truly love, appreciate, and connect with the imagery and use them. So as always, I am sending you much love and many blessings as you walk along your own path. Bye.